Today's shiur is about faith, and it's going to be a two-part shiur, two in the series of faith. What defines true faith? We know that faith is very, very important, a fundamental precept of Torah, of Judaism, in fact, of any faith. It's called faith because you have a certain amount of faith in the principles of that religion. This is based upon, shiur is based upon this week's reading of the laws of Shemitah, the sabbatical. We know that the land of Israel predominantly was dependent upon agriculture and its success. Yet God expected the Jewish people to not plant, harvest, reap, and do agricultural based business on the seventh year. So can you imagine if any one of us would stop working, take a sabbatical for a whole year? Very few people can afford to take a whole year off. Yet every single Jew who worked the land, who owned land, was expected to fulfill this. If he did so, he saw an abundance in the sixth year that would carry him through. Not only the sixth year would be enough for the sixth year, but for the seventh and for the eighth, because it takes time for the new produce to grow. So there's an immense amount of faith. It's a leap of faith to be able to fulfill that, despite the great promises of God. Based upon this, it's important for us to analyze our faith. Since faith is so fundamental to being a proper Jew, and if you'd ask a Jew, do you believe? I'll tell you, of course I believe. Yet, to what extent do we believe? Does this belief penetrate our being, our hearts, our lives, our business? Where does this belief start? And where does this faith and belief stop? There is an interesting quote from the Ethics of Our Fathers. In the first chapter, in the 9th Mishnah, Shimon ben Shetach says, "Heve marbe lachkor et ha'edim." A person must be very cautious, to be very scrupulous in analyzing and extensively analyzing the witnesses. One has to, if one is in the midst of judgment, one has to analyze and be very scrupulous in analyzing the witnesses to be able to ensure that a proper judgment comes forth. So that's a very simple advice, wouldn't you say? Yet why then does he say, Heve marbe lachkor et ha'edim? Heve marbe, be cautious to increasingly analyze the witnesses seems something that, a directive that is to every man. It doesn't seem that he necessarily addresses this to the judges. Based upon this, in a holy book called Pri Hayim, he explains this in a very fascinating way. The fundamental declaration of our faith is what? Which prayer, which verse? The Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. What does it mean? What does it mean? The Lord is our God, Hashem Elokeinu, the two different names of God. Hashem being the Tetragrammaton, being the name that created the world, the energy, the force behind all creative activity, the name that is an unlimited name. It refers to God's omnipresence. He was, He is, He will be. It is beyond the limitation of world. And then there's the name Elokeinu, our God, which refers to more a rational relationship with God. The Tetragrammaton name, the name of Hashem, is a supernatural name. It's a relationship that defies intellect. Elokeinu, the name Elokeinu, our God, our Lord, our Governor, is one that we can more relate to. So we are declaring a fundamental declaration of faith that the Lord, that is beyond human rationale, that is the energy and force behind all creative activity, the omnipresence of God, is our God. He interacts with us. He's not just supernatural. He's not abstract. He's involved with our lives, with every aspect of our lives. Hashem Echad, and this God is one, which means that there is nothing but Him, which means that there is nothing outside of His dominion, outside of His control. Everything is by divine control. There is no greater declaration of faith than that, which means that every breath that we take comes from God. Every occurrence that occurs comes from God. That's a very powerful declaration of faith. And we say it during the daytime and during the nighttime. That is very significant, as we will discuss later on. The first letter of the Shema is always spelt big. The last letter of the Shema, of the word Shema, is written in the Torah big. Ayin, the letter Ayin is written very big. Like draws our attention. And the last letter of the verse, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, one, God is one, is also written big. The last letter, Daled. So we have two letters in this verse that are accentuated, that are highlighted. It's like stands out and like hits us in the face. What are those two letters? What do they spell? What do they say? Ed. Ayin Daled means witness. Every time we make this declaration, we are giving testimony that God runs the world. We are giving testimony, a statement of faith that God runs the world. We are His witnesses. But if we are to be His witnesses, then we are to follow the advice of Shimon ben Shetach, which in the Ethics of Our Fathers said that one has to exceedingly examine the witnesses. When he says exceedingly examine the witnesses, he's not only referring to witnesses in court, in judicial matters. He's talking about the witnesses, the testimony that we declare every single day of our lives. And this part of our mandate to give testimony to our faith, to declare our faith clearly and openly in God. Then we are to check these witnesses, analyze them, scrutinize them. And who are these witnesses? None other than ourselves. And we know generally speaking, testimony in the Jewish religion is two, based upon two. And that is why we recite the Shema twice, during the day and during the night. The two distinct periods of our day. In fact, also the two distinct periods in our lives, where there is light, where there is illumination, when things are bright, cheerful, or when things are dark, when things are confusing, when there's doubt, or when we are young and the sun is like rising, or when we are old, when the sun is setting. In all periods of our lives, whether things are happening good or God forbid the opposite, we must examine ourselves to see whether the declaration of faith that we are giving is a true testimony or testament of what we truly believe. Because quite often if you see someone, you speak to someone, do you believe? Of course you believe. Of course I believe in God. Yet why do we get angry when something untoward happens? Why do we get angry if, say, we lost some money on the shares? Why do we get angry if things don't go our way? Why do we get angry or jealous when someone has it better than us? Why are we jealous? Why are we greedy? We have to check ourselves very carefully to see whether our declaration of faith is a true testament to what we believe. So Shimon ben Shetach tells us, inquire, search, investigate the witnesses, i.e. our declaration of faith, our declaration of testimony that God runs the world, and that He is our God, and He is one, and there's no other power but Him. Check those witnesses very carefully. Check Him in the day, check Him in the night. Check Him in the zenith and the best part of our lives and times when things are tough. Check to see whether our faith is wholesome and pure. Check to see whether those witnesses, whether our testimony is true.
It's very hard to overcome it. I think it is something that, and sometimes you can say Hashem wants us to encounter this difficult situation. So, I mean, isn't that, aren't we meant to feel anger or, hurt or anything like that? I mean, there is a confronting situation. I mean, you are meant to go to Hashem and ask, how will I overcome this?
You're not wrong, and we're going to discuss that later. That's part of our question. To what degree is faith expected of us? What is the true definition of faith? That's what we want to discuss. I don't think we'll get to it today, but hopefully by next week we will finish. Another important aspect that we have to investigate is also not only our public lives, but our private lives. We know that quite often we behave publicly in a particular way and privately in another way. That's why the mezuzah, when we come into the house, is on the right-hand side, reminding us as we come into the home, hey, don't think that there is no God in your home, that God is not watching. That outside you have to behave nicely because you want to be perceived as a nice person, but inside the home you can do whatever you want. God is in your home just as much as He's outside of your home. And for this reason, the Holy Ark that housed the Ten Commandments and the Torah was plated in gold on the outside, but also on the inside. Why do you need to plate gold on the inside? What happened was that there was a simple box of wood. This box of wood was then placed into a container of a box of gold, and inside was placed a smaller box of gold. And then there was the lid that covered, which was as well covered in gold. So which means to say that the whole ark, the box that carried the Ten Commandments and the Holy Torah, was covered in gold, both from the outside and from the inside. Why bother to do it on the inside? Nobody can see what's on the inside. Nobody opened the ark. You want to make it nice, you want to honor God, you want to give glory to God in the commandments. Good, so cover it in gold. Save a couple of pennies, you don't need the inside one. The answer is that a Jew has to be a Jew on the outside as much as he has to be a Jew on the inside. He has to shine like gold shines on the inside just as much as on the outside. And this is the two times that we say Shema. During the daytime when things are seen and public. During the nighttime when things at times are more private, not seen. Rabbi Shimon Machetach advises us to check ourselves very carefully whether we are giving true testimony to Hashem and the right witnesses to that declaration of faith. So what is faith? Where does faith come from? Faith, in fact, comes from the neshama, comes from the soul. It is an extension of our belief system. Belief is not something that is limited to our understanding or our experiences. It is something supernatural. It is something that is associated with the neshama. And even if we may deny our belief and our faith, which there are such people, if you have a neshama, which you do, every single person has a neshama, then deep down he believes, and deep down he trusts. Then the objective then is to be able to translate this belief and trust to something that is meaningful and tangible. So why is it then so difficult? If every single one of us has a soul, and really faith, it comes from the soul, and the soul really is pure. So how is it that people have difficulty with faith? Why is it so difficult? The answer is because for many people it's hidden. It has to be revealed. It has to be revealed not only from the soul, but to the body and affect the body and change the mindset of the body as well. I remember being a kid in camp. They showed us a video called Frisco Kid. Don't know whether any of you know it. Frisco Kid, very, very interesting movie, very funny. There's one scene that I always remember where he's taken captive by the Indians. He loses his Sefer Torah, and he realizes he loses his Sefer Torah, he's got to go back. And the guy who's going with him, his guide, he says, "Are you crazy? You're going back to Indian land. The Indians they hate the white man. They'll kill you." He says, "Never mind, I have to go. It's more precious than life." So he goes back. Sure enough, he's captured by the Indians, and the Indians are about to burn him. And this Indian chief is watching him very carefully, and he sees him praying. And he says, "You've come back for this?" And he says, "Yes." "What is it?" "The Torah, my Bible." And he says, "Would you trade your boots?" "Of course I would." "Would you trade your knife?" "I have no knife." And he says, "Man with no knife has no knife." Cutting the long story short, he's impressed by this rabbi who seems to be a holy man. So he lets him go, and they're sitting in the tent that night, and they're having drinks, and he tells him a little bit about his God. And he says, "Can your God make rain?" And he says, "What do you mean? My God can do anything. He makes the sun rise, he makes the sunset. Can he make rain?" So he says, "He doesn't make rain." "Can he make rain?" "Can he make rain? He can make everything." "He doesn't make rain." Suddenly, there's thunder and lightning, and rain falls. And then he goes, "But all of a sudden he can change his mind just like that." It's very funny, but if you think about it, quite often, it's so true. We make God so abstract in our lives. Of course God runs the world. Of course God split the sea. Of course God did these miracles. He gave us the Torah. Did He create the heaven and earth? Of course He created the heaven and earth. Can He make rain? No, He doesn't make rain. 1 second. The same God who created heaven and earth, who did all of these miracles, isn't He the same God that sustains you every day? Yet do we show and reveal this belief and this faith in God on a regular basis in a tangible way? Quite often we get lost in our daily activities that we forget about God. Stop someone in the middle and say, did God split the sea? Oh yes, of course. Did God create heaven and earth? Of course. Did He give us the Bible? Did He give us the Torah in such great fanfare before all of the people? Of course. So why did you just get angry because something happened to you? Or why are you arguing with someone or trying to cheat someone in business? Does God not run your life? Can He not sustain you without having you to get upset and angry? Without having you to cheat this one in business? Suddenly we realize that we are really lacking faith. Like Frisco Kid. He can create the heavens. He does everything. Can He make rain? No. And that's why it's hard. When it comes to our daily lives, in abstract terms, of course, we know that God created the world. When it comes to our daily lives, to our daily business, it becomes hard. Because this is our own personal struggle. It's our own personal test. And that's tough. And that's tough. There's an interesting story told about a very great rabbi who had a member of his congregation always come late to prayer. So the rabbi asked him, why are you late to prayers every day? He says, because I wake up in the morning, I quickly go and buy stock from the farmers, and then I come to synagogue, I pray, and then I go and I sell the stock that I bought. So the rabbi says, but why do you buy the stock before prayers? Why can't you first pray and then go buy your stock? He says, if I delay buying the stock after prayers, there'll be nothing for me left. Only the garbage will be left, if anything at all. So the rabbi smiles and he tells him a story. One time, there was a person who worked outside of his city. And he spent a whole year working, struggling and toiling, amassing coin after coin, putting it away, gold coins, silver coins, copper coins. And at the end of the year, he would come home, you spend a month at home, spend the Hagim at home, pay off all of the creditors, all of the debts that his family amassed during that year, left over whatever's left for the coming months, and then he'd go back, work again, save, come, etc. Not everybody was fortunate to be able to. One of the blessings that a guest says in the home of a host in Birkat Hamazon, that a person's parnasah, sustenance, we bless the host that his sustenance should be close to the city. He doesn't have to travel out. It's not convenient. It's dangerous to travel out. It's not nice to be away from the family. So one time this person was coming back home. For whatever reason, there was some delay on the road. And he arrived in the next town on the way to home, literally before Shabbat. He didn't know what to do. What's he going to do? He's got his whole money with him, his whole pouch of money with him. Usually when he travels to town, he gets early, he finds a secure place. He hides it, he digs it next to a tree, he hides it when nobody's looking. Here, there was no time. He had no choice. He quickly just gave it to the innkeeper, who was Jewish. He gave it to the innkeeper, he said, please keep it to me until Motzei Shabbat. Suddenly Shabbat came in and he said, oh my God, what did I do? My whole life savings, the whole year, everything I worked for, what's going to be? If I come home, how will I be able to face my wife if the guy decides to gyp me, to rip me off? What did I do? What a mistake. What a Shabbat he had. He couldn't He was so upset he couldn't concentrate in his prayers. He couldn't eat the meal properly, nothing. As soon as the 3 stars were out, he couldn't wait. He couldn't wait to pray. The host, seeing that he was so agitated, realized why he was agitated, the innkeeper. So he finished his prayers before this gentleman, and he took the belt, the money pouch, and he gave it. And the man had 3 compartments, the gold coins, the silver coins, and the copper coins in this money belt. So he gives it puts it on the table, and the guy's praying. Didn't even finish his prayers. He's already, in the midst of the prayers, he's already looking and he's taking out the gold coins and counting the gold coins. Everything was in place. Then he takes out the silver coins and he counts the silver coins. And then he counts the copper coins. So the host looks at him and he smiles. And he says, "Isn't it obvious to you that I was honest and I returned everything to you when you counted the gold coins? I mean, if I'm going to take anything, I'm going to take the gold coins. And you saw that I didn't touch the gold coins, so you could have rest assured and felt a bit confident and finished your prayers. If you were so concerned, all right, so you counted the gold coins. Why did you go and count the silver coins? You counted the silver coins, everything was there. You still didn't have faith and trust me. You still went and you counted the copper coins what's copper coins? So the rabbi looked at his congregant and he said, don't you trust and have faith in God? You counted the gold coins. Yet you go and you have to count the silver, and then you have to go and count the copper coins every day. So the man looked at him, silver, copper, coins, gold coins, what are you talking about? He said, God gave you the soul every single day. He gave it back to you today, didn't he? Much more precious than the eggs and the milk and the cheese that you buy, isn't it? Much more than your daily parnasah, your daily sustenance, isn't it? So God gave you the gold coins. You woke up in the morning. God gave you the gold coins. Couldn't you just have faith and trust? God is faithful. I should have faith in him. He gave me the gold coins. He returned my life. I'm healthy. You need to go and count the silver coins. You need to go and count the copper coins as well. You got to go and buy the produce before the prayer. You can't go pray to God and say thank you very much and express your thanksgiving and your faith in the coming day, your thanksgiving and your faith in God that he restored you to life. And in the coming day that God will sustain you. The same God that gave you your soul back is the same God that sustains you. Ever since he heard that, he understood the message. He went. He stopped buying the produce before. He went early to prayers. He didn't rush his prayers. He prayed nicely. He thanked God for the gold coins. He thanked God for the silver coins. And then he went out to earn his copper coins. And lo and behold, all of the suppliers waited for him, kept the usual stuff that he bought. He was an honest and faithful person, and they waited for him. So you see, it was all an illusion. You didn't have to rush. Where are you running to? The same God that gave you life is the same God that will sustain you. Not through this door, through that door. Not through that door, through this door. Not through this supplier, never mind, there's another one. Who put it in the head of this supplier to trust you and to sell to you in the first place, to give you credit, if not God? So remember the story of the Frisco kid. Yes, can your God bring the sun, rise the sun, set the sun? Yes. My God gives life. He gives color to the trees. He gives power to the winds. Can he make rain? He doesn't make rain. When it comes bottom line to the dollar, it's as if God has no control over the rains so all of a sudden. And that's why it's tough. When it comes to our pockets, when it comes to our daily lives, when it comes to the challenges that we have, we suddenly have doubts. We suddenly are engulfed with panic because they are real pains, they are real difficulties, they are real challenges. But is not this God just as real, more strong, more powerful? Did not God himself, is the one who gave you these challenges in the first place? Do you then not trust God? We're going to speak a lot more about this later.
Maybe it's not just doubt, maybe it's questioning.
We'll speak about it later. We'll speak about that more at length later. I'm just planting the seeds for the faith. Later on, we will discuss the challenges themselves and where does faith come in? Is there room for doubts or questions or the pain, expression of pain? Or is that diminishing our faith? We will discuss that because these are very important questions and we have what to speak about that as well. I want to read to you something that I came across, a very interesting letter. A person who lives in Israel, and I think every one of us can appreciate this. Listen to this, very interesting. As I board the bus, I wonder where I should sit. I try so hard to stop the thought process I know is coming, but it happens anyway. Should I sit in the front? Should I sit in the back? Definitely not in the middle. Usually a bomber tries to make his or her way to the middle. The back is probably the safest. I'll make my way to the back of the bus. I hate it. I hate that I think it. That I actually try to figure out where am I least likely to be killed. I hate it that for a few seconds I try and think like a bomber. I glance around and estimate where the most damage would be caused, and then I move away from it. Interestingly, this happens only on buses. It doesn't happen in other places. I'm fine in crowds, more or less. I go to restaurants. I go to town. I go to places deemed dangerous by the government. And yet, I fear the buses. During the entire ride, I look around. I stare at every package. I stare at every person, every bus stop. I wonder if all the passengers are having the same fears and the same anxiety. I think about their lives, their families, their jobs. Everyone is going about their daily routine, running errands, returning to work. Are they all scared? I wonder if I would know a bomber if I saw one. Would I realize? Would I do anything? And then all the doubts come flooding in. What if I did suspect someone? Would I shout at the top of my lungs and inform everyone? Would it help? If I were right, would it be too late? The bomber would simply blow him or herself up. I would have accomplished nothing. If I was wrong, I would cause utter hysteria. People could get hurt. Would I remain silent? Could I? There have been times that I've chosen to get off the bus. Nervously, I wait for the next stop and exit as quickly as possible. Fortunately, I have always been wrong. But I don't feel any better when I exit. If I had been right, God forbid, I would have only saved myself. How could I feel strongly enough to get off the bus, but then not tell others of my suspicions? These thoughts overwhelm me, and I realize the damage that terrorism has accomplished. The problem is not that I live in a world where I have to wonder which part of the bus is most likely to survive. The problem is that I have allowed these animals to diminish my faith and my belief. In theory, I'm the first to say that I absolutely and completely believe in God. I believe He rules the world, and I believe that nothing just happens. I believe that every bullet has an address. In theory. Can your God make rain? In theory. In reality, I clearly doubt. For if I don't, I would have no problem boarding a bus. You may say that this is not so much doubt, that there is also the idea that we don't put ourselves in harm's way. I wish that were the case, but it isn't. For then the argument could continue in a number of ways. I then shouldn't go to public places. I shouldn't live in Jerusalem. I shouldn't live in Israel. But I do, and I do not fear. And I do believe and trust and have faith until I board a bus. Can your God make rain? But I make myself get on. I make myself get on because every time I don't, I feel that the terrorist has won. Perhaps he has not succeeded in harming my body, but he has harmed my mind, my heart, and soul. I cannot allow this. I cannot give victory to my enemy, to he who seeks to destroy me. And so I sit and I watch and I pray. And I await the day when my faith and belief will be stronger. When I will sit where I want to, knowing in my mind and heart that God rules this world and that there is nothing to fear. That's a very interesting letter by someone who has the trauma of getting on a bus every single day of their lives in the face of terrorist attacks. So where is your faith? So yes, do you believe? Of course I believe. But when it comes to getting on the bus, when it comes to our sustenance or our parnasah, we suddenly forget the same God that gave us the gold coins, that gave us our life back. We're still looking out for the silver coins. We're still looking out for the copper coins. So this is the difficulty. In theory, do we believe? Yes. In theory, do we have faith? Yes. But in practice, we all have that hindrance, that bus, that fear of particular situations in our lives where we have a challenge. But that's okay. Because we have a firm belief, despite all, that life is good because God is good. And our job is to prove it. Because we are God's witnesses. Every single day we proclaim, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one." And the end of the word Shema, which is a big letter, is Ayin. And the end of the word Echad, that God is one, is Daled, which spells Ed, which means witness. We have to be God's witnesses. We have to prove that God runs the world, that God is good, that life is good, that the world is good. But we first have to prove it to ourselves. I want to share with you an interesting story that I read. There was one time a person who became attracted to a rabbi in a particular town who was a Chabad rabbi. And he began to study with him, and he learned many things. Amongst the many things that he learned is the power of tzaddikim the power of the righteous. How noble they are, how great they are, how great their influences is in heaven and in earth. And as he became more acquainted with the rabbi and more closer, he decided that he's going to visit his Rebbe, his rabbi's Rebbe, the Rebbe of Lubavitch, the Rebbe of Chabad. So he traveled to New York, and he was a successful businessman. And now he recently learned the greatness of the Rebbe. And when he had a private audience with the Rebbe, so tongue-in-cheek, he said, Rebbe, I want to become your partner. He figured, the Rebbe is a great man, I want to be his partner. Surely there's success there. So the Rebbe smiled and he said, I'll agree on one condition. And as you know, partners do not do things without the knowledge of the other partner. So, if you want to enter in a partnership with me, you cannot do anything without my knowledge or against my will. So we agreed. So the Rebbe said, fine. I want you to go and buy a particular merchandise, a particular material. So he goes back to his town, and he goes and he buys this material, and he notifies the Rebbe that he bought however many bolts of this material. So the Rebbe says, where is your faith? You're very narrow-minded. I want you to buy an extensive amount of this material. So he buys a wealth of amount of this material. And he spends an absolute fortune. Literally, whatever material, this particular type of material he could get his hands on, he bought. Almost like the sole trader of this material now. So he buys this material. Shortly afterwards, this particular material, the price begins to drop for whatever reason. There's no demand for it. It was a particular style of material, not the ordinary run-of-the-mill, the navy blue wools, or the black silks, or the black polyesters, or the white cottons. It was a very distinct, particular type of material of which he bought anything that he can get his hands on. The price went down. The price went down. He began to shake, to quiver, have anxiety attacks. So he writes a letter to the Rebbe that he wants to sell and cut his losses. Knowing the deal of the partnership, even though he is a seasoned businessman, and his business sense tells him, cut your losses, sell now. Because guess what? He owns a massive amount of this material, and he's almost like the sole supplier of this material, and if this material is not in style this season, he's finished, he's gone. Cut losses, sell it now. The Rebbe answers him, no. He follows the dictates of the Rebbe. His teacher, his rabbi told him that tzaddikim, the righteous, are very holy, very special. And shortly afterwards, the price of the material went further down. Now he's really anxious. He's sweating. And his relationship with the Chabad rabbi begins to weaken. He sends a quick letter to the Rebbe, sell now, so we can at least only have half the losses. The Rebbe says, no. He's really anxious. He's really upset now. What am I going to do? 50%, what a fortune I've lost already. Yet I undertook not to do anything against the will of my partner. Shortly afterwards, the price of the material went down further. He was really going insane now. He was now thinking maybe the whole business was a mistake. Maybe everything that his rabbi told him was not true. Maybe the Rebbe is a very special man, very scholarly, but he's not, the righteous. He was rethinking his whole position and his whole thing, because the price is literally 15-20% of the original price, of purchase price. And he's lost his faith. Shortly afterwards, the price goes up. He begins to breathe. There's a bit of a demand for it, and he says, well, now's the time to sell. He sends a note to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe says no. And he's all anxious and what to do, and he waits it out. He made an agreement. He made a partnership. And then the price goes back to half. Now's the time to sell, at least only half the losses. I can rebuild myself. He sends a note to the Rebbe says, no. Then the price goes back, like the Aussie dollar 1-to-1. And he says, now's the best time, fantastic. Now I can sell. I've seen that this is a very unpredictable material. I don't want this material. I want out now. Now that's it. I've saved I have no losses. Beautiful. He writes to the Rebbe says no. He's thinking, what's going on here? He doesn't know anything about business. Why did I make such a stupid offer to be his partner? What does he know about materials? What does he know about this? Why am I doing this? And all of a sudden, the price suddenly begins to rise. So he wants to sell 20%. 20% of, $2 million, $3 million, a lot of money. It's $200,000, $300,000 just like that. Wow, that's not bad. He sends a letter to his partner, the Rebbe. The Rebbe says, no. What does he know about business? 20%. If you make 20, 30% on a transaction, you're doing fantastic. Who makes 10%? Here we made 20, 30%, fantastic. The Rebbe says no, but he keeps his word. And all of a sudden, there's this fashion guru from London who made a particular design using that material and only that material. And that becomes the latest fashion. And everybody wants to buy that material. And he becomes a millionaire. He comes to the Rebbe, travels to New York, and he brings a check. And he smiles to the Rebbe and he says, here, Rebbe, this is your half. We're partners. Made a couple of $1 million here. Here's your half. The Rebbe smiles and he says, I don't want any money. You distribute that money to charity. So the man says, surely. And then the man says, well, I want to be your partner again. What's the next deal? Rebbe smiles and he says, you're a very weak partner. I can't be partners with you. Can your God make rain? Like the famous movie in Frisco Kid. He doesn't make rain. God does everything. Yet somehow, when it comes to our personal lives, we doubt, we quiver, we shake. So where is our faith? And this is what Rabbi Shimon ben Shetach says. One must be very diligent in analyzing the witnesses, i.e. ourselves. Do we, when we recite the Shema Yisrael, the declaration of absolute faith in God, does that mean wholeheartedly in every aspect of our lives? Or are we like that lady who gets on the bus, difficult as it may be? But the challenge, as I said before, because faith does not come from the intellect and from circumstances, it comes from the soul. And the soul is immutable. The soul is unadulterated. The soul is pure. All we have to do is access the soul. And the more we access the soul, the more our faith and our belief in God becomes real, becomes tangible, and becomes living in every aspect of our lives. So we'll stop here, and we will continue next week. And next week we will discuss the challenges of faith. And by questioning or by having doubts, does that mean we don't have faith? Are we burying our heads in the sand? Are we pretending? We will discuss those challenges next week and other very interesting things. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you next week.